You both had, I lose them both, and the third one ended up.
You can stop them on top of them on Friday.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm falling asleep. You say that.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready then?
Five bells.
Okay, I'll call the regular town council meeting of April 22nd to order at 5 p.m. So welcome everyone. And we've got the agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or deletions? I have none, your worship. Thank you. Okay, would someone like to move the adoption of the agenda? Councillor Ford?
Thank you, your worship. I'll move that council adopt the agenda of April 22nd, 2024, regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
It is carried. We have the minutes of the April 8th regular council meeting in front of us. Anybody notice any edits to those minutes? If not, would someone move the Councillor Good?
I'll move the council adopt the minutes of the April 8th, 2024 regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
It is carried. Okay, next up, we have public hearings on bylaw number 2152, land use bylaw number 1891, an amendment redistricting plan for 7823128 block 15 lots 11 from mixed commercial residential to direct control. And Ms. Modi is going to lead us through parts. So, well, I have to get myself in order. So, does someone want to move that council open the public hearing on the matter of bylaw 2152, amending land use bylaw 1891 for the purpose of redistricting plan 7823128, block 15, lot 11 from mixed commercial to direct control? Who wants to move that? Councillor Carr so moves. All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Okay, I declare the statutory public hearing open at 5:02 and note that this hearing is held pursuant to section 787 and 8, 606 and 692 of the Municipal Government Act. I request the manager of planning and development, Ms. Modi, to confirm what the purpose of the hearing is.
Good evening, your worship. The purpose of the public hearing is to consider a bylaw that redistricts 9506-94 Ave from the mixed commercial residential district to the direct control district of the land use bylaw.
And when was the public hearing notice advertised?
The notice was it was published on the town's website beginning on the 9th of April, posted on our Facebook page on both April 10th and 17th, posted on the public bulletin board at the town office on the 10th, and circulated to adjacent landowners, the property owner and the applicant on April 10th.
Thank you. Are there any public submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package that need to be read into the record?
There are none.
Okay, thank you. So I just request that all persons giving oral presentations are to clearly state their name, and the presentations are to be brief and to the point. And now call on the development officer designate to continue.
Thank you. So I'm here to present the bylaw that does redistrict from mixed commercial residential to the direct control district in the downtown area of Peace River. We've been working for quite a while to figure out how to best approach this bylaw or approach this application, which we did receive from the applicant who is looking to do a contractor services type development at 9506-94 Ave, which is the Old Town Tire site in the downtown. The mixed commercial residential district doesn't have an appropriate use at this point, and given the nature of the property being in an industrial style development, and on the boundary of the downtown, which has some specific policies related to it, It became a challenge to try and rezone this in a way that administration could support, that would meet the needs of the applicant, the landowner, and also put the town in the strategic position that we're aiming for based on our municipal planning framework. So direct control is going forward. The direct control district will provide council with the authority to consider any development permit applications on the site. It doesn't specify any specific land uses that are specifically allowed within the area, but it also provides a broad level of flexibility. So any application that an applicant wants to bring forward for development for this site can be brought to council for consideration. So essentially that is why we've chosen the direct control district, and given the property's design, its condition and previous use, it makes the most sense to be able to consider applications that are likely to come forward. So it doesn't just meet the needs of the applicant, but also would potentially meet the needs of the landowner going forward for any type of use that makes a lot of sense on that site and in that building. We did, although I want to note that we did circulate this to Northern Sunrise County on April 1st, not March 1st, as my public hearing report states. I didn't know a month in advance that this was the approach. But on April 1st, we did circulate that to the county as per our intermunicipal development plan, and did receive confirmation that the county had no concerns. So this respects the direction of the MDP and the Enhancing Downtown Renewal and Tourism report that is tied to the municipal development plan, but also gives us the flexibility to consider uses that might be slightly more industrial in nature. So I can take any questions the council might have. I'll just also highlight that the bylaw that is provided for you tonight does have an updated version of the Schedule A. It is a schedule that updates the style, not the substance. We are still highlighting the property that is being rezoned from CR to direct control. There's no other change to the bylaw.
Councilors? Looks like we're good to go. So you're finished yours. Okay, I would now call on those in favor of the bylaw to come forward if they wish. Okay, I'll now call on those opposed to the bylaw. I will now call on any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard. Okay, would you like to make a concluding statement, Ms. Modi?
I'll just conclude by saying that it's our recommendation that council consider second and third reading of the bylaw this evening.
Okay, thank you. So seeing that all presentations have been made, I will now declare the public hearing closed at 5:08. Okay, so we're now in the presentations part of our agenda. So we have a presentation from the Sagatawa Friendship Society, and whomever would like to come forward, and we'll get started. We can bring another chair forward too, if you would like. And if you wouldn't mind saying all your names into the microphone, you just press the button, leave it on red, and it's live.
Martin Lestra.
Marissa Gelder, the Executive Director of Sagatawa Friendship Society.
Maxine Elter, Outreach Services Manager.
And Leanne Berry.
So thank you, and we're here for the presentation.
Okay, thank you for having us here tonight. We'd like to give an update on the mobile outreach unit as well as the PRCC transport. So I'll start with the transport with the Peace River Correctional Facility. So we were granted a contract by Alberta Justice, where we are now transporting individuals that are released from PRCC back to their home communities. We started in February of this year, and to date, we've had 32 transports. So that's 32 individuals that have been transported back to their home communities. And we have continued our partnership with PRCC and are hoping to expand further programming into the facility. And that is a branch of our mobile outreach unit now, is the transporting for PRCC. With mobile outreach, we have continued to be very busy. I do have stats from January 1st to March 31st, which is our third quarter of our fiscal year. Our total calls that we've had in that quarter are 121 calls, and those are ranging from business owners, agencies, private residents, RCMP, hospital, as well as clients. We're doing daily outreach and client mentoring, so we are working on building relationships with the clients and building relationships between business owners and our clients. And within the quarter, we've had 21 different business interactions, and our mobile outreach team is actively connecting with all businesses and continuing to do different programming with the clientele as well. So I'll pass it over to the team now, and they'll give you perspective from the front line.
I guess I'll jump in here. Relationship wise, we've had, that's just growing astronomically. We get lots of calls from our businesses downtown. I'm just going to throw out CIBC. Head there, they're very respectful. They call. It was interesting. A story I want to tell about that is when one of our clients were, continuing to be a nuisance. We would pick them up and take them back to shelter and or where they needed to go. And their family picked them up at Christmas time, and so they're not around anymore. And CIBC was like, "Where is that young lady? Where is she?" So they were very concerned. They didn't want anything bad to have happened to her. And when they found out that she had gone back with her family, they were thrilled, and it was so nice to see. It was a real community effort and community caring that I saw. And again, we get lots of calls like that where we show up. We showed up here at the town office and did an intervention with a young fellow that was out front, and just the caring that the staff here showed. We were so impressed with that. And then the acknowledgement that we got this. It was really nice to see, and that's building, and it's been building for the last 4 or 5 months, where they just they're confident that we know who our people are and what's a better situation they need to be in. And our peeps, they just come with us. They trust us and they have a relationship with us, and they know we have their best interests at heart. But even more than that, they know now that the community has their best interests at heart. So kudos to, Peace River business owners reaching out in a really good way. They don't want an arrest. They want some help. And so I'm really impressed by that. My street team is always, day or night. Their hours are, 1 to 9 normally after the businesses are shut down. So they do a lot of transport, medical, some, if there's an altercation, Peace River RCMP call on them regularly to come and assist. And I think that also shows an amazing relationship. I think that's what I'm seeing more. Is those really positive relationships that are being created, and it's a true community feel out there. So I'm not sure if Martin, you have something that you would like to add with regard to some of your activities in the community?
Sure. So this program is has been something that has been in development, collectively through all of us at the Saginaw. So we have a lot of experience. There's never a question that can't be answered between us. So that's been very highly valuable for me going out. What I've seen is is a very unique situation in front of us here where we have opportunity to be able to develop the great communication between many parties that maybe don't have the very same perspective in a very gentle, inviting way, and creating more sense of unity and safety inside of the community because of the awareness and the education that can be provided. Not knowing things is something that creates divisions a lot of times between people and fear. And I think that this program here allows us to be able to communicate, what's going on and on all sides, because you truly have to be neutral to be able to be effective in this position. So what I see from the business clients is smiles, invites, and you know what, that things are going really good. That's the message that I got consistently over in my last outing talking with business. With places like the hospital, the RCMP, people they're coming forward and saying, hi, how are you guys doing? What are you guys up to? I haven't been turned away anywhere. And I haven't had anybody come at me in a negative way either. So what I see is success with that, because I think that the people see, they just see some doing to relieve the stress. And that really provides some happiness out there. So there's much more to be done out there, and I think that there's opportunity that can be this can be developed quite more than what it is right now, and it's really needed.
I think, Marissa, I think we should talk about some of our successes, some of our placements from our shelter into their own housing. We have, I believe, five of our regular that were accessing our shelter. Our outreach services kind of transitioned into not just the heat of the moment, not just those situations. It's actually working with them and moving them forward on their own personal life journey. And that's where we're pretty pleased with that. We've had especially two that have been in our shelter since its inception, and they're now out on their own. So that's we're moving just straight. We're not doing putting out fires. We're moving into the next part now, and so that's that's coming faster than I thought, for sure. But it's happening, and we're seeing that every day. And they're asking for housing and school and things like that. Those relationships are really cemented now, and they know the communities there with them also. So it gives them a lot of confidence to succeed. So I'm really pleased about that.
And with the shelter too, we are currently moving into our summer hours. So the shelter is open 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. daily. So we are closing the daytime shelter just based on funding. We were fortunate to receive funding for the next fiscal year from the Alberta government and Reaching Home. So we will be opening, we are open 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. right now. And then come October 1st, we will be open 24 hours again for the winter months. But we are actively working on housing our unhoused clients.
A question for you with respect to transporting people from the correctional center. Have you transported outside of Peace River, or where's the furthest transporter? How's that work?
So the furthest we've transported is Edmonton. Our regular trips are Grand Prairie, High Level, and High Prairie. But it is based on wherever the need is. Yes.
Yeah.
Councillors, do you have some questions? Councillor Scanlon?
Have you had a situation where you went to go transport someone, they said, no, I'm gonna stay in Peace River, and they kind of like refused access, even if they weren't, say, a local here?
We haven't run into that situation. We did have a medical situation where the client wasn't able to be transported that day, but he was transported later on in the week. So we haven't run into a situation where they don't want to go home. Typically,
So they're happy to receive.
Oh,
the
very.
service. Okay, that's good. That's great.
Can't wait.
Mhm.
So before, it would have been a case of people ending up in Peace River with nowhere to go that did not want to be, they wanted to go home.
Yeah.
They just had no way to get there by bus or whatever, okay.
Yeah.
Counselor Ford?
Yeah, just one question. Kind of found it surprising that you're transporting south, like you said, your farthest transport was Edmonton. Was that on a weekend or?
That-
I'm just curious as to why there wasn't a bus ticket provided, but like, I know you got the grant, I love the service, but I'm just curious as to why you transported rather than your standard everyday bus ticket.
I transported, because, I have a background in justice, and I've done many transports for, Corrections Canada. I'm comfortable transporting. I was going to Edmonton. And so it just made sense for me to take the young fellow, I and, one of our other staff. We were headed that way, so it was take the young man and get him home as fast as we can. We would have had to wait 24 hours to get him on the bus. So I didn't want to do that.
And typically we are trying to transport as soon as we can. So if our transport lines up quicker than the bus, then we would do that because we don't want to keep people here if they're wanting to go.
No, thank you, and keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Counselor Carr?
Now, the ones you've transported, are those ones that have served their sentences, or is that also including remand people that have to come back for court? And if so, how are they getting back from court?
Okay, I'll answer that one. We don't know if they are on remand. That's not our business.
Okay.
Okay, that's not our business. We don't know that. What we do is we're given a transportation requisition. It says where they're going. We make those arrangements. There's no file information, because that is confidential.
That's fair.
Okay, so that's, we transport a body, you know, yeah.
I was just asking that because I have spoken to some of the people that are remand and they say, well, I can't leave because I have a court date in 2 weeks. How am I gonna get back? And that sort of thing. That's where the
Yeah,
question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I understand of that's not information we're privy to, though.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Shannon?
My question is for Marissa. Marissa, you mentioned that you're working on relationships between clients and businesses. What does that look like, a relationship between a client and a business? Like, just kind of explain that. I'm not sure how that looks.
So I think that really goes with what Maxine is saying, that they're building relationships with the clients and no longer looking at them as nuisance or a problem to get rid of. And it's more of the mobile outreach team working with both parties to basically determine that we're all more alike than we are different. And just really that care from business owners shown towards our people. And we do have quite a few business owners that reach out to us when they're not seeing the clients regularly in their business. They're actually reaching out to us and asking about them, if they're okay, where they are, and just a lot of concern. And the mobile outreach team is really working on building those relationships. So there's not as many challenges, I guess. And don't know if you guys want to speak more on that with the relationships.
I think more or less, if you have, two people, with two separate perspectives, that aren't communicating and there isn't a liaison in between, then you can end up with, miscommunication, misunderstanding, and obscured perspectives that will, can cause more problem, right? So the more everybody knows about each other, the better of a unified perspective can be there, and understanding and communication, all that stuff flows more.
So you're bridging that
Yeah.
space between the two. Okay, thank you very much. Good work.
Thank you.
Are you finding, like we've talked about, people coming from the correction center, are you finding people that are just coming into town from other places, shall we say? Like, is the population of homeless going up? Do you think maintaining itself kind of?
No. No.
It's been maintaining, I
Yeah.
would say, for the past year.
Yeah.
And it really is people local to our region.
Yeah.
Not many people from outside of our region.
Councilors, any further questions right now? Okay,
If there's from your perspective, being, you know, kind of boots on the ground all the time, what would be something, if we could do something else in addition to this, what would you see, be like, something like this would be effective, you know, just like put your wishing cap on, I guess, and throw it out there.
Portable housing. Portable housing, like almost like a housing, that has like a den mother or somebody there that, you know, you can start teaching life skills, you can start teaching, you know, the basics of being on your own, looking after a house, like transitional housing, stage 2. Stage 2, we've got a shelter now we need stage 2. We need a place that we can move them into and start doing additional programming, addictions programming. You can't take somebody, send them out to an addiction program, you know, it's 3 months long they are now, which is amazing. But you bring them back and then now what? He goes thrown back into the shelter versus move into a place, a safe place where they begin to, they have that education, they have that, but more than that, they have a practice, a recovery practice where they get to practice living clean and sober. And, you know, as an extension of that treatment center, that's what we need now.
So it's a big step. So like you had mentioned a number of clients that made it from the shelter into housing.
Yeah.
That's a big step from there to there, and most can't.
No, massive. It's a massive step. We do daily check-ins. They know we're there for them. We do our daily check-ins. We do weekly check-ins with them, make sure everything is, we've arranged things, you know, food, those kind of things for, you know, these 2 individuals that I'm thinking about. But I mean, there's more that's needed, you know, that programming, that, yeah, that just life skills. When you've lived in a shelter for, you know, most of your life or on the streets, the other part, I mean, where are you gonna get, that's your education. So it takes practice, takes time to practice a different lifestyle. You know, we're asking them to, you know, it's like night and day, you know, like night and day, be responsible for bills and all of those kind of things, you know, those take time. Not only is the education need to be there, but the practice needs to be there. They need to live in it for a while and be supported in that. And so that's what I think we need now, is that.
You mentioned, the shelter, so the new building, how is the new building coming along or not?
So the new building is excellent. We're super excited to be in there. I do want to make it very clear though, that the shelter is not in our new facility. We're still operating at our old facility for the shelter. And the goal right now is to not move the shelter over to our new facility. That's been a common misconception that we're housing everybody at our new center and there's all the space. There's not. We're still working in our old location. Our capacity is 28 people for a shelter. We are currently working on a plan for transitional housing, and we're actually hoping within the next fiscal year we can pilot that project. Of course, it's dependent on funding and all those things, and that is also on my wish list, funding for mobile outreach to continue. That is something that the town of Peace River, Northern Sunrise County, the County of Northern Lights, and the MD of Peace have graciously donated in the past fiscal year. So we are hoping that we can receive additional funding to keep the mobile outreach team active, because it is really needed and we've seen huge success with it. And I think that if we keep building the program, we'll definitely see a reduction of our unhoused population in Peace River. But it is something we are working on to get that second stage now, because it is so needed.
Councilors, any other, Councilor Ford?
You had mentioned that your, the shelter can house up to 28 clients. What is your average clientele in the winter months compared to an average in the summer months? Like, let's say this month, for instance, compared to like October.
Between summer and winter, we don't really see much of a difference. Our average right now is around 22 clients per night. After COVID, we did see a large increase of people just coming strictly for meals at the shelter. So food insecurity is also a huge issue in our community right now. So there have been nights where we've had 40 people just coming in for supper. But typically we see 22 people sleeping there. But typically that doesn't, there's not much of a difference between summer and winter months.
So 28, but you have approximately 23 right throughout.
Yeah, 22 is that.
Oh, okay,
Our
thank you.
capacity is 28. Yeah.
And sorry, going back to our new facility, I just have to make one comment. But we are having issues with the plumbing, and I will be coming to the town council regarding that on a separate at a separate time. But I know that some of you have been contacted by our board, so that is coming, but it is pretty good, just a couple issues with plumbing.
Okay, and you might also contact administration directly.
Yes.
That might be quicker than through us and understand. But anyways, you know, welcome, whatever.
Yeah.
Any further questions, anyone?
Yeah, with like 22 people there at a night, are you finding a lot of interpersonal conflict there, or like this, or you know, is maybe groups from out of town don't get along with groups from that are, you know, local more in town, or is it everyone's just happy to be having a meal and, you know, in a comfortable,
Yeah.
well, a place more comfortable than outside, let's go with that.
Yeah. I think whenever you have a group of people together, there's going to be some interpersonal challenges.
Yeah.
Typically, we don't see a lot of incidents within the shelter. Of course, we hear about things outside of the shelter, but typically we have very few incidents that occur inside the shelter.
Yeah, but they have rules. We have rules, like, you know, no violence, you know, no disrespect. It's run like a respectful home, you know, we'll do the 110% for you, but you show respect. And they're very good, and they're very, very cognizant of that, you know, those things, and apologies, you know, when they're not in talks. You get, you know, that one day, I got a pop can thrown at my head downtown. And the next day, the nice little girl, she put a hot cup of tea in my hand and said she was sorry, you know, so, those types of things, knowing full well, you know, we treat each other with respect and kindness. That's who we are, and we expect that back. And
Yeah,
they're very,
like, and the reason I ask is that, like, you know, we hear things and that's how it goes, right? We hear things about a lot of things, and I'm sure you guys hear things about stuff that we're up to, you know, and it's like,
Yeah.
until you talk to somebody and find out, oh, this is what it's really like, you know, the rumor mill does what it does, but when we're in the
Yeah.
place, and that's why I wanted to ask. because-
absolutely.
And I would definitely encourage all council members to come to the shelter, see what happens.
Yeah.
Mealtime is a really good time to come, and just see what the space is like. We've recently done a few renovations, and it would just be a really good opportunity to come see what the shelter is like, because we know the rumor mill runs wild, and we definitely want to squash it before it starts. So I definitely welcome everyone to come and visit us, and even our new center, we'd love to show you that as well, so. Yeah.
I did stop into the new center one day, but that day everyone was on a course the day I stopped in. So there was just a lady that met me at the door, but I did stop in to see what was going on.
Magical.
So the mobile outreach concentrates on sort of the downtown Main Street kind of area. Do you branch off to the riverbank as well, or not so much?
Yes, so we, it's not just focused on downtown, it is Peace River as a whole.
Okay.
So our team regularly, visits the encampments. We do multiple visits up on the West Hill. So we service the whole town.
Good, thank you. Councilors, any further questions? Okay, well, it looks like we're done with questions for right now. Thank you very much for coming, and it's great to see that you seem to be moving forward in a positive direction on all sides, so that's great, and we hope the funding carries on that way. Yeah, cross our fingers. So thank you again, and best of luck through the summer, and we'll be talking again at some point, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is bylaws, and we are at bylaw number 2152, land use bylaw number 1891, amendment redistricting plan 7823128, block 15, lot 11 from mixed commercial residential to direct control. And Ms. Modi.
Good evening. Yes, you have a couple of options before you. The first is to give second and third reading to bylaw 2152. This will allow the applicant to apply for a change of use development permit for their business operation, and also provides a mechanism for council to consider future development proposals on the subject site, weighing the unique historic, physical, and regulatory circumstances of the site. The disadvantage to that option is that the direct control does create both a lot of flexibility, but also uncertainty with respect to development rights, both for the property owner and adjacent landowners. The other option is the council defeat second reading of bylaw 2152, which means that the applicant wouldn't be able to relocate their business to the property. There may be an exception of not being friendly to business. It may result in a vacant building within the downtown, and future development proposals for the subject property may encounter the same regulatory challenges. So it is our recommendation that council provides second and third reading to the bylaw this evening.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions at this point in time? Would someone bring forth a motion perhaps? Councillor Good?
I'll move the council give second reading as amended to bylaw 2152, which amends land use bylaw number 1891 for the purpose of redistricting plan 7823128, lot 15, lot 11 from mixed commercial residential to direct control.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that motion, discussion? All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? It's carried. Okay, we also have a possibility of moving to third reading.
So I'll move that council give third reading to bylaw number 2152. Same as the last guy.
Okay, we'll have all the wording in there.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it has passed third reading. Thank you, Ms. Modi, for all your work on that matter. And next up, we are at unfinished business, and Mrs. Miller, looking at Alberta municipalities convention resolutions.
Thank you, your worship. So as previously mentioned at the February 26th and April 8th council meetings, Alberta Munis provides opportunity for municipalities to bring forward a resolution at their fall convention for debate and support. The town, as a reminder, seconded Town of Grimshaw's resolution on rural access to support for addictions, homelessness, and mental health at the convention last fall. So with a deadline coming forward for May 31st, administration would require time to do some research and put together any information. We're looking to see if council did want to bring forward anything for this convention this fall.
Okay, so this would be our opportunity for the fall convention, but as Ms. Miller says, there's quite a bit of work usually to be done to get a resolution wording and background and so on. So does anybody have a topic they would like to put forward at this point in time? Okay, maybe someone will then just move that council accept the briefing note for information. Councillor Good, so moved.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It is carried. Next up, we have new business grants to organizations awards. Mrs. Bell. Thank you, your worship. As presented previously by, organizations, there are 4 separate applicants to the first intake for 2024. We did lose a 5th intake, applicant, sorry. The Peace River Community Event Society, has chosen to not proceed with their Peace Fest event for 2024. They're looking to the future. So they have confirmed they're not proceeding, so they don't require, their application will not be included within this particular intake period. Therefore, council has 4 applicants to review and address through this first intake period. As a reminder of the parameters and the framework of the policy, council has confirmed $50,000 for the budget for 2024. The intake periods would be broken out into increments of 15,667. And capital requests are a maximum of $5,000 per request. Thank you. But an overall maximum budget of 30% of the total budget for the year. So presented before you, council, are 2 options, though you can choose a 3rd or 4th, up to your ultimate choice. The 4 applicants have been scored through the evaluation process by 2 administration staff, and the scoring is presented beside their asks and their total amount requests. Option 1, based on the scoring, administration proposes in option 1 sort of a scaling of award based on those scores. Option 2 is allowing council carte blanche to provide direction on how they'd like to fund each of the applications. Thank you. Councilors, any questions at this point? I'm wondering why we wouldn't, there's a couple $100 left in what could be allocated for the first intake, right? So I'll throw out there that council accept the proposal, but add $100 to the Underground Music Society and $200 to the council, well, the Cole Catravon playground area. The money's there, they could use it. Then we would add another $300 or take another $300 out of that allotment. But that's throw out there. So someone like to make a motion or have further discussion?
I'd just like to ask what your thoughts are for choosing those 2 for putting the extra money toward.
The others asked, the Rotaract asked exactly for that, and minor football, it's a capital item and that's their limit.
Okay.
Yeah. So, councilors' thoughts, motion?
How would we, oh, you want to? Okay.
Councilor Good?
Would we say option 1 with amended, or how would admin like to receive that?
You could state the organization and the
And
total
amount.
amount, yes.
Okay, so I guess I'll say option 2, but say Peace River Rotaract for $8,769.53. Minor football for $5,000, Underground Music Society for $600, and EQV for $1,200. That capture your?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Thank you. Further discussion? Okay, we have a motion before us. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Okay, it is carried. Thank you very much, Mrs. Bell, and good luck to the different projects that are going to be coming forth there. Okay, next up, we have Community Services Board appointment, and Ms. Bell, you're still here. I have 3 in a row. Before you, council, this evening is a request based on recommendation from the Community Services Board of a new applicant for said board. The individual is Joshua Magnuson, and the board recommends your support for his appointment. Thank you. Councilors, any thoughts? Somebody could put forth a motion. Councilor Ford?
Thank you, Your Worship. I put a motion on the floor that council appoint Joshua Magnuson to the Community Service Board as a public member at large for a 3-year term.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
It is carried. Thank you, Mrs. Bell. And we're still carrying on here, and now you're going to talk about the 2024, what is this grant? Northern,
Regional development.
oh, here we go. Northern and Regional Economic Development Program grant.
I too was searching for the title. This is a good news story, of which council would may be aware of. We applied to the NRED grant. This is our second application. We did receive a previous grant the year 2023. This is for a wayfinding project, and it was placed in the 2024 budget, and we have been successful in a $200,000 grant. So this project will be proceeding in the spring with consultation and design and assessment of the community of where we'll be putting signs, where we need directional signage and the like. So we're very excited. This is a great addition to the community, both tourism and in general.
So we'll be able to find our way around town if we don't know certain landmarks.
Yeah, it won't be based on so-and-so lives on X corner or,
Right.
you know, some of the locals. Just of note, the implementation of the signage won't be probably until spring of next year after design, and installing signs in December is not always successful.
Thank you. Councilors, someone like to propose a motion, further discussion?
Should we like to make a comment?
Councilor Carr?
I really liked the idea when it was first brought to us about the signs, maybe including, like Indigenous writing on it or something like that. Is that
Mhm. So we're looking at QR codes on some of our destination signage that at the location. Yeah, definitely.
That's a good idea.
Would someone be prepared to put forth a motion on this matter? Councilor Good?
I'll move that council accept the briefing note regarding the town's successful application of the 2024 NRED program grant for information.
Thank you. Do we have to,
We already approved the 200,000 we got the matching grant, so there's no money that's necessary.
okay, so we've got a motion before us. All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
It is carried. Thank you, Mrs. Bell, for all your work on that one too. Okay, next up, we have Mr. Fisher, our Director of Infrastructure and Engineering, and he's going to talk about the Municipal Energy Manager Program.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. I'm really excited about this one. I actually have participated in the Municipal Energy Manager Program in a previous organization. And I'm really excited to see the Municipal Climate Change and Action Center kind of bring back this grant program for some new communities to try it out. So the MCCAC, the Municipal Climate Change Action Center, is an organization that's kind of funded through AV Munis. And the Municipal Energy Manager Program is kind of designed to do, well, put a resource into a community so that they can tackle energy audits, collect information, make energy improvements. And there's a really strong focus on creating a sustainable program in the long term. So they're looking for operational efficiencies, cost reductions wherever they can, trying to find low hanging fruit. If we can implement this small change, we can save some money or reduce our greenhouse gas emissions as a community. The other thing that this kind of program does is it opens up doors for funding. So a lot of federal grant funding, whether it's the Green Municipal Building Fund or ISIP, some of the larger infrastructure pieces like rec center upgrades and things like that, they actually require a green assessment to it. They might have an abridged version or something like that, but they require you to do an assessment, and this kind of person collects that information, helps us find grant funding for some of those bigger projects in the future. So I have kind of before you tonight, some information on the program. So they've restructured it since the first round of funding. The restructuring is kind of geared towards creating a more sustainable program. So in year one, they'll fund up to 80% of the person's salary to take on this energy manager role for a municipality, and the municipality would own for the other 20%, plus their benefits costs. So, they also provide up to $20,000 in sort of rebates to support implementation of the program. So that's money that can be used to hire consultants to do the energy audits if we don't have somebody who's got that as their bench strength. That could be implementing programs, implementing upgrades, like converting lighting in a building like this, or things like that to find energy and money savings. And there are some stipulations on how that $20,000 gets spent, but it's for us to put into our facilities. And then in year two, they'll cover 40% of the energy manager's salary, leaving municipality on the hook for a little bit more. And the idea is that they kind of wean you off so you don't have a big cliff at the end of the program if you decide to carry it onward. And it's a lot easier to convert into a more permanent function. And they also provide you with $40,000 in year two for implementing programs for energy efficiencies and finding things. There is a pretty cool structure to this program in that they're not just like put into a community, but they're given opportunities for training through the MCCAC. They have regular meetings, they have check-ins, they have a very defined set of objectives. And the funding in year two is tied to meeting those objectives. So if you don't meet those objectives, you don't get the funding for year two. So it is got a very qualitative component to it. There's a lot of measuring and performance management that just comes from the MCCAC over these energy managers. There's some case studies that are attached. And I think if you've got the right person in this role and you get them working on the right things, they can find enough money in operational savings and by bringing grants into the organization to actually cover their salary. I think it's a really, really successful program. And I think a lot of the communities that implemented this, I think it's more than half of them, have converted that person into a full-time staff and carried on with the program, or that person left, but they kept the program going and had to fill it again. I have entered in an expression of interest with the program when it was launched to get additional details. We've been invited to submit an application, but I figured before I did, I would come and ask if this is something that you would want to direct funding to. So if we applied and were approved, there is a financial implication to the town. That will require us covering probably about $20,000, give or take a little bit in year one, and about $60,000 in year two to fund the salary, our portion of the salary and benefits. Ideally, I would be targeting that person to find operational savings and justify them sticking around so that we can have good information when it comes time for upgrading our facilities and searching for grants. So I've got sort of two options. Option one is that council supports administration in applying for this, understanding that there is a financial implication, or that council declines this. Any questions?
Councilor Carr?
So you've been part of this program before,
Yes,
and you think it's a real good program?
I think it's an amazing program. So with, and there's some extenuating circumstances there, but with that person, I was able to reduce electrical costs in my wastewater plant by $40,000 a year. And that was just a really easy measure to undertake. It didn't actually require a significant capital upgrade to make happen. And I think that there are opportunities when you go looking for it. And the other piece that comes with this is because you are in contact with the program managers and you're documenting and you're creating this proof that, hey, I've met my objectives. A lot of it is getting tracked and we can actually, if you're again the right person, bring reports forward and say, hey, here's what we did in the last 6 months, and here's the cost savings, and here's our greenhouse gas reductions.
Councillor Carr?
Now, what specifically would you be looking for in that individual? Are you looking for example, an electrical engineer, an electrical technician, somebody who's good with numbers? Like what are you looking for? And how likely are we to find somebody that's gonna fit? Because obviously the program is gonna depend on, the success of it will depend on that individual.
I think that there's a perception that we don't get qualified candidates.
Oh, no, that's not where I was going.
Okay, so that's something that has been communicated to me repeatedly, is we just don't get good candidates, but we have been, with a lot of the job postings in my department, seeing some fairly qualified people.
No, that wasn't where I was going.
This person is probably gonna have ideally an HVAC technical background, so a technologist or something like that, that understands building technology, heat transfer, maintenance protocols, because there's actually a lot of maintenance activities that can reduce your energy use and stuff. So I think that's the target. Historically, I had an EIT and they did excellent working for me. It required quite a bit of coaching, but they were a good fit. But I think I've seen technologists. There are some communities that had somebody with a planning background, environmental technology background. The other piece that came with the coaching was a whole network of other people that were doing the same thing, and a library of here's all the things that we are doing. So they weren't ever really alone. Was the other piece. So did that answer your question, Councilor?
100%.
So I think this could provide the town with definitely a way forward into our environmental master plan as such. We've got, several newer buildings, but even upgrading lights in a newer building does things. The automatic light come on, come off, depending upon who's in the room, sort of thing. All those sorts of things, they're little things that maybe they add up. And I'm thinking that's also what this person would be looking at, as well as, I don't know, your furnace is 50 years old, maybe something should happen to it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, your worship. So we would probably pick a couple of facilities each year to focus on, is how I would envision the program rolling out from administration's perspective. So we would pick a couple of buildings where we need information, we know that there's probably some work to be done, and where we can gather the information. What that person will do is basically go into the building and do like a full-on assessment. And then they'll basically look at how the building was built, when it was built. They'll look at the energy bills and build a model for this facility so that they can predict how, based on the weather, what the power and fuel consumption will be for heating. And then they'll take that and then they'll build an opportunities register that says, here's a list of all the different things that we can do to reduce our energy footprint for this building. And then there's stuff that costs a lot, but doesn't move the needle very much. And then there's stuff that moves the needle a little bit, but doesn't cost very much. And then there's like every kind of shade in between, and they kind of prioritize and say, okay, well, I have this much money and we can move on some of these, and they're low cost, high opportunity things. So let's get these done. And then in the future, in the next, say, 5 years, we can plan for this piece. So it ties into asset management, and ties into green and sustainable buildings, and it really positions us to get grant funding, right?
So it would perhaps look at things like the type of material, if you have a choice of material and there's one has an energy difference of some sort, like, I don't know what.
We don't, I don't know that they would look at that, but they would say, oh, well, this building has old windows, this one's made with that paradigm windows. So, but maybe one of our other buildings has like older aluminum frame windows, and they might look and say, okay, well, we can model this and we'll save this much money, and we can, or save this much in greenhouse gas emissions, and this meets the criteria that we could probably get a small grant from this place to fund that window replacement, and they'll kind of build those opportunities, find funding, and try and capture them that way.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Somebody care to put forth a motion on the matter?
I'll move that council indicate their support for the town of Peace River's application to the municipal energy manager 2-year program, with the municipally funded portion of this position to be included in the 2025 budget.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Okay, it is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Fisher. And now maybe a good news story, Mr. Buckford, MVP's fire services agreement.
Evening, Madam Mayor and Council. The Town of Peace River provides emergency response service for a portion of the MVPs. So you can't really see on the map that's included in the package because it's black and white. It's basically everything east of Range Road 225. So the town's fire chief and myself met with CAO for the MD and discussed revisions to prior agreement. So the prior agreement expired in 2023. We did a 1-year extension and increased it by 3% to $51,500. So we used this as an opportunity to review terms. We agreed upon modest increase to the annual fee from $50,000 to $55,000. That's the same $55,000 for each year of the agreement. So we just basically average what we anticipate the inflationary factor would be during the term. We also clarified some language around how any revenue received is split. So there is some revenue associated with highway rescue. So we put in language clarifying how that's going to be split. And also included some clarification in terms of the authority of the fire chief in terms of, if there's calls that need to be made in terms of spending the MD's money. And, basically what discretion the chief has, and also information that we provide to them so that the MD is able to pursue revenue if they so choose from their residents in regards to fire response. So overall, both parties have been quite happy with how the arrangements functioned. The MD's council reviewed the agreement on March 26th and approved the terms. So the options before council this evening are to approve entering into a new memorandum of agreement to provide emergency response service to the MVPs ending December 31, 2027. Advantages are it provides a cost-effective support for a neighboring municipality. It supports regional collaboration efforts and its additional revenue from the town. There's no disadvantages. Option 2 would be to decline to approve entering into a new memorandum of agreement. Really no advantages with that. The disadvantages are low revenue and it doesn't support our neighbors. So the recommendation from administration is that council approve entering into a new memorandum of agreement to provide emergency response service to the MVPs for a term ending December 31, 2027, at a cost of $55,000 per annum. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just ask, so this Range Road 225, is that the road one this way from the airport, or where is it?
I was looking at that myself. It looks like there might be an error on the map. Because Range Road 224 is the road that, is the one before the airport, and then Highway 2A, Roma Drive is Road 230, so I'm not sure where 225 is. Well, no, it's slow down at the other end.
Yeah, there's one check now.
So this is the same map that was in the previous agreement. We didn't make any edits to it. I think I was just looking at it on Google Maps to try and get a bearing for it. I think it's the road basically if you were to run north, and I know there's no actual road the whole way, but north from where the jail is. So that, yeah. So that's,
So it does not include the airport.
no,
Okay.
There's.
No, I was under the other, no, I'm not trying to send you back to do more homework. I was under the understanding that we have some equipment that the airport would be very interested in using should they have an issue there that other fire departments may not have. I know that this was probably made just in terms of proximity to the other fire department.
yeah, I mean, we still have mutual aid agreements with
Okay.
all of our surrounding neighbors.
And it's a slight uptick from what we had before and everyone's happy at the table and. Good.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Any further questions, discussion?
Range Road 225 is the road, is the short road that the guest ran that comes off 224. So there's a short road, it's in behind the airport. Yeah, on the south side. And it's a mile back from the airport.
We just need some of those wayfinding signs on this.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, I think we've got the area, understand the concept. Any further discussion? Someone care to put forth a motion on the matter?
Sure, as soon as I find it.
Councillor Ford is going to.
There we go. Thank you, Your Worship. I put a motion on the floor that council approves entering into a new memorandum of agreement to provide emergency response service to the MD of Peace for a term ending December 31, 2027 at a cost of $55,000 per annum.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Good news. Okay, next up, we have, Mrs. Miller, who's going to talk about the Town of Peace River Economic Development Committee appointments.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the next decision before council is appointment of some Economic Development Committee members. We have 2 vacant positions. So the committee is officially 2 years old, and the initial board appointments were that 2 members were to serve 2 years, and the remaining 2 members at large were to serve 3 years. And that ensured that we weren't continuity, we weren't reappointing the entire board at one time. So the 2-year members have reached their term, and they have both declined to renew their appointment because of personal reasons. So I just did want to take a moment to express administration's gratitude for the support and the contribution made by those 2 members. They served on the initial board. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of groundwork to be started, and we appreciate and value the work that they contributed. So we began the search for some new members. 5 applications were received, and they were reviewed by the board members on April 16th. And of that, the EDC committee made 2 recommendations, one to appoint Kay Tice and the other to appoint Noah Laverne, thank you. Each for a 2-year term. And then we would also be looking for formal acceptance of the resignations, motions to accept the resignations of member Brandon Deuce and member Gail Walton. So if council would consider those requests, thank you.
Okay, okay, we've got recommendations in front of us. Someone care to put forth a motion or ask a question?
I can put forth the first motion. I propose move that council appoint Kay Tice to the Town of Peace River Economic Development Committee for a 2-year term.
That's different case. Okay, so we've got one motion for Ms. Tice. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is carried. Thank you. Someone like to do another motion?
Yeah, I'll move that council appoint Noah Laverne to the Town of Peace River Economic Development Committee for a 2-year term.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Another motion perhaps? Councilor Good?
I'll move that council accept Brandon Deuce's resignation from the Town of Peace River Economic Development Committee effective January 2024. And I think that if I could add with thanks from council
Okay. All those in favor of that motion?
as amended.
Aye.
Okay, then maybe a fourth motion? Councilor Good.
As I put a motion on the floor that council accept Gail Walton's resignation from the Town of Peace River Economic Development Committee effective April 22nd, 2024. And again, with thanks from council.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of Councilor Ford's motion?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. So thank you on behalf of council to the two who have put in their time on the organizing part of the committee, as well as carrying on the work. It's hard to realize it's already been 2 years. So onwards we go. Next up, Mrs. Miller talking about the MD of Peace Recreation Master Plan.
Thank you, Your Worship. So before council is, as you mentioned, a copy of the MD of Peace's Recreation Master Plan. It's been brought forward for council and administration to review and provide any feedback to the MD on their report. They're looking for feedback by May 15th. I did want to say I've only had a quick look through it, but it looks to have a great inventory of the regional recreation assets, parks, playgrounds, trails, recreation facilities, and actually had some interesting data on the usage by the MD of Peace residents. So I am grateful for a lot of the information that's in there. It's going to be awesome to be able to just hand some of that data on our recreation assets over to our ECDev person and save a lot of work. So, again, if we could get any feedback by the 15th of March to provide back to the MD of Peace, that would be appreciated.
So what type of feedback? Something's missing from the report, that kind of thing?
For some, or I guess too, if you see spelling mistakes or incorrect information that you're aware of or anything else that could be of value.
Yeah, I'll throw one out there. Pickleball seems to maybe be missed in their thought process, but I don't know, it wasn't mentioned specifically, but maybe that means if you use the bait text, maybe you're doing the pickleball sort of thing. Anyways, it's quite the report. It's worthwhile reading for anybody in the public who's interested in well, recreation or lots of park information in the MD is included there, including some plans for Strong Creek Park and the river usage there and whatnot. So very worthwhile to read it, I would say. Maybe someone would, Councilor Good?
Just a question. So they're looking for feedback by May 15th.
Yes.
So we have a couple of meetings. How many meetings do we have before then?
True, yeah.
Yeah, I think it should be on the agenda for one of those meetings to discuss. Thank you.
Would you like to put forth a motion on the information meeting?
Sure. I'll move the council accept the briefing note regarding the MD of Peace's draft recreation master plan for information and that it be brought back to a future council meeting for discussion.
Thank you.
Before the deadline.
Yeah.
Sure, before the deadline. redundant.
Ms. Parsons, you have the motion? Yeah, okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Great, it is carried. Okay, next up, we have Mrs. Miller with regional nuclear power presentation discussions, power plant discussions.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, so nuclear power plant development in the Peace region is the topic for this request for decision. As everyone is aware, increased electricity demands and population growth combined with net zero pressures and cost on carbon emissions means that the province of Alberta must expand and diversify their energy resources. And that means the future of nuclear power plant development in Alberta is currently being considered by the government of Alberta. The move to nuclear is a good avenue to aid Alberta and the federal government in reaching their net zero goals and bringing reliable, low-cost energy to all residents. As a region, we were previously identified as being highly suitable for development, and council, along with 4 of our municipal partners, being Northern Sunrise County, County of Northern Lights, MD of Peace, and the town of Grimshaw, recently received a presentation and engaged in discussions with the developer regarding their proposed nuclear project. From these discussions, it's understood that the technological progress made on nuclear power plants over the last 6 decades has increased safety and significantly decreased resulting nuclear waste, making nuclear energy safe, reliable, and clean. A location for nuclear development in Alberta has not yet been selected, but the competition is high, with many municipalities vying for the opportunity. The selected municipality region will reap significant economic benefits from the development of a power plant, including thousands of jobs during construction phase and hundreds of continuing operations jobs. Should council be interested in pursuing nuclear development in our region, it was recommended that a motion of council indicating their willingness to be a nuclear host region be passed. And to further nuclear discussions efficiently and timely, it was further suggested that a subcommittee of regional mayors and reeves be formed to continue engaging on these important discussions and advocating for our region. Recognizing that work on nuclear initiatives will go well beyond the next 2 local election cycles to ensure continuity of knowledge on any such project and discussions, it's recommended that administration also be appointed to the subcommittee. And finally, it was mentioned that initiative of this magnitude may require a high-level communication plan developing strategies to disperse factual information, handle media relations, and accurately and consistently communicate our region's message. This type of communication will likely require an outside firm, largely due to the delicate nature of the subject and the amount of time it will require. In-house support would simply not have the resources to dedicate to such a project. So the request is, if so desired, that council provides a motion to support the town of Peace River being in support of a nuclear host region, and that the mayor and council be enabled, the mayor and CAO be enabled to participate in a subcommittee to be formed of regional mayors, reeves, and CAOs to continue discussions and advocacy for the Peace region to be a nuclear host, and that council indicate their support for developing a regional communication strategy regarding nuclear development in our area, and direct administration to work with our regional neighbors to develop a communications plan and estimated funding that would be required.
Thank you. So councillors, discussion, motions. Councillor Carr?
With no disrespect to anybody, I don't think necessarily we should follow the recommendation that has been presented. The reason being is I feel this is an economic development project. It's going to have a huge impact on the region if it goes ahead, and I think we need to put and again, with no disrespect, we need to put our economic development counselor on in place of mayor. And no disrespect to you, Elaine, whatsoever. I just feel this is a huge economic thing. And with Shelley's contacts with the government, I think if we are serious about moving forward with this, I think that would be a very beneficial I think that would be our best foot forward.
Other discussion, comments? CAO Miller?
Just in consideration of the comment that Councillor Carr put forward, it was discussed during the regional meeting that, they wanted the mayors or reeves. So that's the motion that was brought forward because of that.
I realize that.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Councillor Good?
Yeah, I support the motion as it is. And the reason for that is that, and I agree with you, it is an economic thing too, but there's a number of different aspects that are involved. And there's nothing stopping us having economic development committee be a part of it, have a voice in it, advocate, whatever. I don't think that that's a problem. I think that the proper person to deal with mayors and reeves are the mayors and reeves that were elected by the communities to speak for the communities in this situation. Good.
Councillor Carr?
Is this not a lobbying group? I understood it was.
I think it's a finding out information group, and it's the group that would be the liaison between the government and its processes and whatever the local area is. So part of that. It's also mentioned at our meeting that if other groups came forward, that this group would organize to have the other people come and talk to us as well. So it's not just Alberta Energy Group, it's whatever's coming forth in the next few years. Really. Yeah. Okay, so any further comments? If someone would care to put forth a motion that we could.
Here, Shelley's phone, I guess, but I can't hear her.
Put their hand up. Councillor Shannon? Deputy Mayor, did you have a comment? We can't hear you, I think. Sorry, Deputy Mayor, we can't hear you. I think something's gone mute.
It's just muted. About that.
There we go. Yeah. You were commenting?
It doesn't matter. No, it's fine. I agree with Brad, though. I think if this is economics, recommending to have the main mayor and Reeve, whatever there, those are just recommendations, and I still believe it should be the best person in the room that's going to be able to do the most good there is all I'm saying too. And that's how I think it should be. But we'll see.
Okay.
Yes.
Would someone, thank you. Would someone question? Okay.
I'm just thinking out loud here, I've heard everybody's comments, but when it comes to, and I'm just gonna ask it bluntly, no disrespect, when it comes to the two people that are interested in this, what kind of relationships do either of you have with the ministers? Like
I've got excellent relationships with them.
And I would say like, I hate to get into this, on behalf of the town of Peace River, the mayor has relationships as well, including with the MLA, who's really supporting this. So,
I meant strong relationships, so.
Quite frankly, I feel that the mayor should be on this because the other ones are Reeves and mayors as well. There can always be subcommittees formed and other people drawn into the discussions as time goes on.
So it's Reeves and mayors from every other.
Yes.
Yes.
That's, that might not happen at one place, I heard, but
Well,
Okay, we know what we,
it may not be.
Alternates?
But we did hear. what
Yeah, it's
we heard at the
recommended.
meetings. If I may, that's what we did here at the meetings. It was gonna be mayors, reeves and CAOs. But as I said, my feeling is very strongly that this is not just an economic development issue. I mean, if it was just economics, the argument is it gonna make us money? The answer is yes, we should go with it. And I'm not sure that the questions are that simple. And I'm not sure that that's the main issue. I think that there's going to be a lot of discussions held over the next couple of years that are not strictly economic. And it's also not, I think that we have a person who is elected by our community to speak for the community. As I said, there's nothing stopping other people being involved. Our Economic Development Committee, which we already have an Economic Development Committee. I believe that you're a member of that. I believe that other people on council are members of that. I think there's a time for political discussion and for working with the other councils. And I think there's a time for working outside of government. But also, I don't think you necessarily name people who are not elected specifically to deal with other levels of government,
Are you saying that I'm not supposed to deal with other levels of government, Don?
No, I didn't say that. And I said
Oh,
what
I
I
said what you meant by
I
that.
said what I said. No, you can try and change what I said to something that you'd like to argue with, but what I said was, I believe that the people who were elected by the community to speak for council are the people who were elected by the community to speak for council. When council makes a motion in another area, then I think that's fine and dandy. They can do so. Council can make those decisions.
Councillor
And
Ford?
again, as Brad said, and I mean this very sincerely with no disrespect.
Councillor Ford?
Just read, like I've heard this is what what was discussed at the meeting. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there. I wasn't there for that part of the meeting. I had work commitments, but, with the motion, what then if let's say if the mayor is away, do we have room for an alternate? So that if the mayor cannot attend, that, somebody else would attend in her place?
Yeah, we could do.
Yes, I think that's the usual practice.
Well, without making any decision on it at all, it's whoever is the deputy mayor would fulfill the role of the mayor. So we need not appoint any, and I don't know that I don't know that we're going to deal with that.
Okay, I think we're ready to perhaps, did somebody make?
I like the first one.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move the council provide a motion of support that the town of Peace River is supportive of being a nuclear host region.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor of that motion? All opposed?
Just to vote.
So
Sorry.
the deputy mayor, you were voting when I said opposed or when I said in favor?
Opposed.
Okay. Okay, the matter is carried. Then there's the suggestion for the next motion. Somebody care to put forth one on that one?
Yeah, I'll move that the mayor and CEO being able to participate in a subcommittee to be formed of regional mayors, reeves, and CAOs to continue discussions and advocacy for the Peace region to be a nuclear host.
Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor of that motion? All those opposed? It is carried. Thank you. There's another suggested motion.
I'll do that.
Councillor Good.
Move the council indicate their support for developing a regional communication strategy regarding nuclear development in our area and directs administration to work with regional neighbors to develop communication plans and estimated funding required.
Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
It is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Okay, next up, we have reports, and the first one is the 2023 AGCO Annual Franchise Report. Anybody care to ask questions or bring up a matter with respect to that one? No? CAO Miller?
I did just want to add an interesting tidbit in that the donations, I did ask about the donations made within the community, to the soup kitchen and I can't remember the others. But what I did learn is those were actual donations from employees, so they'll do an auction and they do other things. It's not a corporate donation necessarily, it's from employees, so just want to say kudos to that.
Okay. I see there's been an ad going around that ACCO has something up to $15,000 for, I don't know, people can apply, or organizations can apply for it, but I can't remember what it's for. It's probably all over Alberta too, so. Okay, then we have council attendance reports. Mine and Councillor Scamahorn.
That's slow month, and I once again changed the date on one part of the form and not the other, so apologies.
Okay. Well, I had a kind of a busy month, with, the big talk about, the, drought and emergency management things going on through the province, the Spring Leaders Caucus, and RMA Spring Conference, as well as a discussion with the Assistant Deputy Minister of Corrections. Any questions on those reports? Okay, then we have the Community Rail Advocacy Alliance monthly roundup. If you can squint at this, you can read it, but basically they're carrying on advocating that CN keep up the rail cars and stuff like that within our region.
I have something to add, just as an update. They didn't make the minutes of the reports yet. I attended the Mercer Public Advisory Committee and asked the manager, Ashcroft there, regarding the rail, if there's been an improvement in rail and this kind of thing. He did say that they had picked up a few cars. But once the cars get loaded up and attached to the train and leave the yard, you don't have actually very good odds of seeing those cars ever again. So that's kind of an interesting development there. So that's not going to be a long-term strategy for them. He mentioned that still very heavy on the trucks. There's been slight improvement in rail, but just a lot of trucks.
Thank you. Okay, then we have the Municipal Library Board minutes. Councillor Boychuk isn't here. But we also have the Economic Development Committee draft meeting minutes. And anything on those, either Deputy Mayor or Councillor Carr. I noticed this one. The Ballard report is coming up sooner than later, I guess. That should be interesting.
Brad and I were both in Kananaskis when that
All
happened.
right. Okay, maybe someone could then move the council accept reports 9.1 through 9.5 for information. Thank you, Deputy or Councillor Scamahorn. All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
It is carried. Thank you. Okay, we have the information packages, council communication packages of April 5th and April 12th. And on the April 5th one, I note that CN has given us a general letter saying that they are carrying on with their vegetation maintenance or management plan this year. So I guess that's good. For organizations out there that are nonprofit, they might be interested in the invitation, the 2024 Northwestern Alberta Foundation's Rooted in Community Tour. They're in Peace River on the 29th at the Art Hub from 10 to 12, and people should register, I understand, to attend that. And then on the next one, April 12th, I note that Cold Shot is again reminding us that they're still looking for help for their operations. But I also noticed in outgoing correspondence, there was, I don't know, quite a few letters that, the, Office, and Economic Development Committee have sent out to various businesses, basically welcoming them. And I just had a question, are these new business or are they, the ones that are getting their business licenses?
Your worship, they should be brand new businesses or new ownership of existing businesses.
Okay, there's 15 of them. I think that's quite a, very interesting. And welcome to them all. And I noticed some, long-term businesses here whose, I guess, ownership must be changing if they're on this list. So that is also interesting. The other one I noticed, invitation to Women in the North Conference, which is happening on May 15th at the Chateau Nova here. Did anybody else want to highlight any of those items? If not, maybe someone would move acceptance of the items 10.1 for information. Councillor Carr. Okay, Councillor Carr so moves. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Do we have any notices of motion?
I have none, your worship, thanks.
Any comments from the public? Okay, key communication items. Suggestions?
I think the grants that we were able to secure, both of them are very, very good news. I mean, you look at, in total over, you know, the next 2 years, we've just secured $300,000 basically, if you do the math. Roundabouts, pretty close to that for, maybe a little bit more even for the community. That's money that's gonna be spent in the community, making it better, making it look nicer, making us more efficient. These are all really good news. So kudos to staff on your successful applications.
Okay, so we've got the NRED grant for wayfinding. And the other one was, application to the, energy manager program, that one. Okay, so we're applying for that. Any others? Mr. Fisher?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, we have been awarded it, we got invited to apply.
We'll get it.
I have that much faith,
Mhm.
which is exactly what I was trying to say, and you guys all knew that, so it's cool.
I think good news that we have the fire services agreement with the MD of Peace underway and good for another 2.5 years sort of thing. The welcome and the goodbyes to the people on the Economic Development Committee. Second tower presentation, I think there was interesting information about how their mobile outreach and also their transportation of people from the prison are going. And then the information about our community being a nuclear host region or part of that, and the other motions that went forth. But anybody else has something further? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should talk about the grants that we give to our community groups also. You know, they contribute a lot to our community.
Grants to organizations, yeah. Any others?
Just thank you to the two members that resigned from the Economic Development Committee and thanks to them for their time on the board.
Okay, so quite a few things. Thank you for that. And I think now we'll take a 5-minute break and we'll come back and move into closed session. So we'll be back here at 6:43.
It just turned over.
Okay. We're still streaming right now.
Okay. Yeah.
This show is yours.
What?
Yeah, the major discussion.
Just give me a minute.